I moved into Maplewood Estates because it seemed like the kind of neighborhood where children could grow up safe, where front yards were green, neighbors waved at each other, and the streetlights came on just as families finished dinner together. I wasn't looking for luxury, just security. After everything my baby daughter Emma and I had been through in the past year, peace felt like a miracle. My wife passed away 9 months ago, only 2 weeks after giving birth to Emma. I was left to raise a newborn alone, learning parenthood through exhaustion and determination. Emma became my whole world. Every smile she gave me felt like a message from her mother saying, "You've got this." I promised I would protect her with everything I had, which is why I made sure to do everything by the book when I bought the house: HOA rules, lawn height, trash can placement, mailbox paint color. I didn't want trouble, but trouble found me the moment I met Karen Whitaker, the president of the HOA. She walked toward me on the first morning with a clipboard tucked under her arm like a sheriff approaching a suspicious drifter. Thin-lipped smile, sunglasses so reflective I could see my own nervous face in them. "New homeowner?" she asked, not bothering to hide the way she scanned me from head to toe. "Yes," I said, "just moved in with my daughter." Her eyes moved to Emma, who was sleeping peacefully in her carrier by my feet. She muttered, "Infants can be disruptive. Our community values quiet." I brushed it off. People like her exist everywhere. As long as she left us alone, I could tolerate her. But she didn't leave us alone. It began with friendly reminders, shoved into my mailbox. Warnings about leaving my recycling bin 1 inch too far from the curb, or my porch light being slightly dimmer than regulation. Then came passive-aggressive comments. Single parents often struggle with responsibility, or children need discipline early. Don't let her become a burden. I kept ignoring her. My priority was bonding with Emma, giving her stability after so much loss. But one afternoon, everything changed. I was outside tending the lawn while Emma sat in her baby seat a few feet away, giggling at the jingling sound of her toy keys. The sun warmed her cheeks, and for a moment, the world felt right. Then Karen appeared again, like a storm cloud crossing the sky. She marched directly toward Emma, ignoring me completely. "Your child is sitting too close to the walkway," she said sharply. HOA guidelines state. Before I could even respond, she reached down and grabbed the handle of the baby carrier. I dropped the rake. "Hey, don't touch her." She scowled at me. "I'm the HOA president. I can move obstructions." "Obstruction?" I snapped. "That's my daughter. She's in a hazardous location," Karen replied. What happened next still replays in slow motion when I close my eyes. She lifted the baby carrier, not carefully, not gently, the way someone might pick up an annoying bag left in the wrong place. The sudden jerk startled Emma, who let out a frightened cry. I stepped forward to take the carrier from her, but Karen twisted away, lecturing me about proper placement protocols, and in that moment her grip slipped. The carrier tilted. Emma cried louder. Karen tried to adjust her hold, but she tightened her fingers on the wrong side. The entire carrier lurched forward, tipping sideways. My heart stopped. I lunged, but gravity was faster. The carrier hit the ground. Emma wasn't thrown, wasn't visibly hurt, but she was terrified. The impact wasn't violent, but it was enough to send her into panicked sobs. I scooped her up instantly, checking her limbs, her head, everything. She clung to me, trembling. Karen didn't apologize, didn't look shocked. She just straightened her shirt and said, in the coldest voice I've ever heard, "Maybe this will be a lesson in obedience, for you and her." I stared at her, stunned, speechless. A lesson? On what planet did dropping a baby count as a lesson? Something inside me broke. Something made of patience, fear, and the benefit of the doubt. "You come near my daughter again," I said, my voice barely human, "and you're going to regret it." She smirked. "You're new here. You'll learn your place." Then she walked away. That night, Emma refused to sleep unless she was in my arms. And I lay awake with her, realizing something terrifying. This wasn't over. Karen wasn't going to stop. And I needed to figure out why. For the next few days, I tried to convince myself that the incident in the front yard had been a horrible accident. I replayed it again and again in my head, trying to find a moment where Karen's grip had slipped naturally, trying to believe she didn't mean for it to happen. But every time I remembered her cold voice calling it a lesson in obedience, that hope evaporated. I filed a complaint with the HOA Council, but they responded with the most predictable line imaginable: "We will review the matter internally." Which was HOA language for, "We will do nothing at all." The neighborhood that seemed peaceful when I first moved in began to feel suffocating. Every time I walked down the street with Emma's stroller, curtains fluttered. People peeked through blinds. Neighbors who once waved politely now turned their faces away. Maybe Karen had been talking. Maybe she'd spun the story into something that portrayed her as a helpless volunteer dealing with a difficult resident. Or maybe they were scared of her, too. Because Karen didn't operate like an ordinary neighbor, she operated like someone who believed she owned the whole community. And now that I'd challenged her, I knew she wouldn't let it go. The first sign came early one morning. I was getting Emma ready for a stroll when I opened the front door and saw a bright yellow HOA citation taped across it. The paper flapped violently in the breeze, as if trying to slap me in the face. Unsafe front porch configuration. I stared, baffled. My porch had a chair, a potted plant, a welcome mat. That was it. I tore the paper down and tossed it into the trash. 2 hours later, another citation appeared, this one taped to my mailbox, crooked and aggressive. Prolonged stroller storage in driveway. The stroller wasn't even in the driveway. It was inside the house, next to me. Karen was doing this on purpose. Testing me, cornering me inch by inch. When I looked across the street, I saw her standing behind the blinds of her living room window, the slats barely open. Her face was partially hidden, but I could feel her eyes following every move I made. A chill crept up my spine. That night, after putting Emma to sleep, I stepped outside to take out the trash and found something stuffed into the handle of my bin. A printed photo. A photo of me, specifically, a photo of me kneeling on the lawn, comforting Emma after Karen had dropped the carrier. It wasn't taken by me. It wasn't from my angle. Someone else had captured that moment, someone watching. My blood ran cold. Who else was involved, or was it just her, sneaking around with her phone? The next morning, I woke to the sound of knocking. Not polite knocking, more like the pounding of someone trying to break in. I grabbed Emma and opened the door halfway. Karen stood there, her expression a mixture of superiority and feigned concern. "We need to talk," she said. "No," I replied, already closing the door. She jammed her shoe into the doorway before it could shut. "I'm trying to help you understand the rules," she insisted. "If you want to fit in, you need guidance. And you seem overwhelmed." I felt Emma tense in my arms, as if sensing the hostility radiating from this woman. "Move your foot," I warned. Karen leaned forward slightly, ignoring the threat. "You're new, you're alone, mistakes will happen, but if you don't listen to authority, you put your child at risk." That sentence snapped something inside me. "You put my child at risk," I shot back. "And you think you can come here and lecture me? You should be apologizing." Her smile vanished like a dropped mask. "I don't make mistakes," she said. "I enforce order." I closed the door, hard. Her shoe moved just in time. For the rest of the afternoon, she circled the block repeatedly, walking her small yappy dog, pretending to check mailboxes, pretending to adjust neighborhood signs. But I could see her glance at my windows each time, watching, waiting, looking for something. That evening, after feeding Emma and rocking her to sleep, I sat on the couch trying to calm the anxiety brewing in my chest. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the baby monitor. Then the monitor crackled. At first, I thought it was normal interference. Then a faint voice filtered through, sharp, nasal, unmistakable. "You need to learn control." My heart stopped. I stood up slowly, staring at the baby monitor like it had betrayed me. The feed was showing Emma peacefully asleep, but the audio, impossible. "Obedience," the voice said again, clearer this time. I rushed into Emma's room. It was empty except for her crib, her toys, and the nightlight glowing softly in the corner. I checked every inch of the room. No one was there. The monitor silence returned. Was Karen somehow picking up the frequency? Or worse, did she have a device that could tap into monitors? The next morning, I bought a new system and installed encrypted Wi-Fi cameras. I wasn't taking chances, but the fear didn't leave. It clung to me like humidity, thick, invisible, suffocating. That evening, as I pushed Emma's stroller down the block, I noticed something strange. Neighbors mowing lawns suddenly stopped when I passed. Conversations abruptly quieted. A pair of kids playing basketball quickly grabbed their ball and went inside. It felt like the entire neighborhood had turned into a stage, and I was the only actor unaware of the script. When I reached the corner, I saw Karen again, standing beside the HOA community board. She was posting something new. A flyer. As I approached, she stepped aside and flashed a smile that felt carved from ice. The flyer read, "Notice. Resident safety concerns, child endangerment under review." And beneath it, in bold red letters, "Report any suspicious parental behavior." My vision blurred with anger. "You sick, twisted, careful," she whispered. People are watching. And they were. Every house on that street had curtains parted. Every pair of eyes was fixed on me. Karen leaned closer. Your daughter deserves a stable environment. If you can't provide it, others will intervene. My hands trembled, but I kept my voice firm. You're not taking my daughter from me. Oh, she said softly, I don't need to take her. The HOA will. That was the night I realized something terrifying. Karen wasn't acting alone. She wasn't just a nosy neighbor with control issues. She was running something. And whatever it was, Emma and I were right in the center of it. For 2 nights, sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. Every creak of the house, every passing car, every flicker of the porch light felt like a threat. I kept Emma's crib beside my bed, one hand always resting on the rail, listening for any sound that didn't belong. Karen wasn't just harassing us anymore. She was escalating, crafting a narrative where I was the danger. And the worst part? The neighborhood believed her. The way they stared at me wasn't confusion anymore, it was judgment. Fear, suspicion. That was when I realized something important. Nobody in this neighborhood had ever crossed Karen and survived socially. The next morning, I made a decision. I was done reacting. I needed answers, real ones. I decided to start with the HOA office, a small converted room attached to the community clubhouse. I knew it wouldn't be open this early, but I also knew Karen wasn't the only one with a key. The vice president, an elderly man named Benson, lived around the corner. He had always seemed uncomfortable around Karen, like a man trapped in a role he didn't want. I knocked on his door. It took him a full minute to open, peeking through the crack like a nervous animal. When he saw me holding Emma strapped to my chest, he relaxed just slightly. Sorry to bother you, I said, but there's something I need to look at in the HOA office. I know you have access. His face tightened instantly with fear, not of me, but of someone else. I can't get involved, he whispered, glancing around the street. Karen has rules. Rules, I said, don't include dropping children or planting false accusations. He swallowed hard. For a moment, I thought he would shut the door in my face. But something in him, maybe guilt, maybe courage, shifted. He reached into a drawer and handed me a keycard. 15 minutes, he whispered. If she finds out I helped you, I'm finished. Then he closed the door quickly. The HOA office was dim, dusty, and far smaller than I imagined. Filing cabinets lined the walls, rows of labeled binders filled with meeting notes, regulations, finances. A bulletin board displayed neighborhood maps covered in colored pins. I strapped Emma securely in her baby carrier chair in the corner, gave her a toy, and began searching the cabinets. The first drawer held property complaints, mostly petty, predictable stuff. Grass too long, fence needs repainting, mailbox rusting. All of it seemed harmless. The second drawer was different. Complaint files were thicker. Some had red stickers marked, recurring. And next to them, photos. Dozens of them. Photos of houses, cars, families, children. My stomach tightened. Then I found something with my name on it, already. Resident. Daniel Hayes. Case file. Ongoing. Ongoing? After a week, I opened the file. Inside were printed emails I had never sent, written as if I had confessed to being overwhelmed, unstable, irresponsible. Notes claiming I yelled aggressively in front of neighbors, left the child unattended for extended periods, created unsanitary living conditions. All lies, all fabricated. At the back of the file was a page titled, Transfer Recommendation. My heart stopped. It read, if behavioral issues escalate, proceed with emergency child safety petition. HOA to refer to dependency services. Emergency, child, what? My fists clenched, my pulse hammered. They wanted to take Emma. Not because she was unsafe, but because Karen wanted control. I flipped the page and found something even more disturbing. A photo of my house at night. Lights off. My bedroom window circled in red marker. Someone had been watching us. Someone had approached the house close enough to take that picture. Behind me, Emma cooed softly, the sound both innocent and heartbreaking. She had no idea the danger hovering around us. I kept searching. Deeper in the drawer, I found an entire binder labeled Behavioral Regulation Program. It was filled with guidelines, strict, invasive guidelines, on how the HOA could intervene with non-compliant residents. Most of the pages were signed by Karen. One section read, Power dynamics must be maintained. Challenging leadership sets an unsafe precedent. Unsafe? For who? Another line. Residents with children are more easily corrected through parental compliance reinforcement. Parental compliance reinforcement? It wasn't a homeowners association. It was a control system. A miniature dictatorship disguised by landscaping rules and mailbox paint colors. I snapped photos of everything with my phone. But the real breakthrough came when I opened the final drawer, one that was locked until I used Benson's key. Inside were two things that made my blood run cold. 1. A small black device with a label, Audio Relay Interceptor. 2. A folder titled, Monitor Frequency Access. My baby monitor. Karen had tapped it. This wasn't paranoia. It wasn't imagination. It was documented. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. There were diagrams, step-by-step instructions on how to sync with common household baby monitors, garage openers, front door cameras. The instructions were written by Karen herself. Then, suddenly, I heard footsteps outside the office. Firm, sharp, coming closer. I froze. Emma, sensing my tension, let out a tiny soft whimper. I grabbed the files, shoved them back, closed the drawers, scooped her into my arms, and backed into the corner. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. The doorknob rattled. I held my breath. Then a voice. Karen's voice, cold enough to chill steel. Benson, I told you to meet me here. I exhaled silently. She wasn't talking to me. But Benson? He was supposed to be home. Had she found the open door to his place? Did she know he helped me? Her heels clicked across the tile. She was moving toward the meeting room next door. I used the moment to slip out the opposite exit, holding Emma tightly to my chest. I kept my head down and moved through the back parking lot, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I didn't breathe until we reached the safety of our car. Inside, Emma looked up at me with those bright, trusting eyes. But I couldn't force a smile back. Because now I understood everything. Karen wasn't simply intrusive. She wasn't simply manipulative. She was building a mechanism of surveillance and control, and she believed she had the authority to take children from parents who didn't submit. She had done it to others. She planned to do it to me. But I wasn't like the others. She hadn't accounted for someone who would fight back. And she definitely hadn't accounted for a father with nothing left to lose. I drove home gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind was racing. Every revelation from the HOA office swirling like a storm. The fake complaints, the manipulated monitor frequencies, the surveillance photos, and worst of all, the emergency child safety petition. Karen had built an entire system meant to break residents into obedience. And she was planning to weaponize it against me, to take Emma. She crossed the line when she dropped my daughter. She crossed it again when she tried to frame me. But now she was launching a full-scale campaign to erase me as a father. She wasn't going to stop. And I wasn't going to run. Not anymore. I spent the next several hours preparing. I backed up every photo, every document, every recording to multiple cloud accounts. I contacted an attorney friend from my old job and sent him everything with a single message. If anything happens, release it publicly. His reply was immediate and direct. Meet me tomorrow morning. Do not be alone tonight. But I knew tonight was exactly when Karen would strike. She never waited. She never hesitated. She acted when people were vulnerable, when they were quiet, exhausted, overwhelmed. And she believed I was all three. I put Emma down for her nap and waited in the living room. The house was dark except for a single lamp. My phone was fully charged. My front door camera was recording. And I was ready. At 9:13 p.m., it began. A soft rustle at the front door. Then a shadow passing across the porch camera. Then, 3 knocks. Slow, heavy, purposeful. I checked the camera feed. It was Karen. She stood on my porch, clipboard tucked under her arm, wearing that same cold authority she wielded like a weapon. But behind her weren't the usual HOA volunteers or nosy neighbors. 2 men stood with her. Not police, not county workers, just men, large, expressionless, wearing matching security jackets with no agency name. Clearly hired muscle, private, unofficial, untraceable. My stomach tightened. She brought backup to take Emma. I opened the door only halfway, keeping the chain lock attached. What do you want? I asked. Karen smiled, a razor-sharp, triumphant smile. We're here for an inspection, she said calmly. There's been a report of unsafe living conditions for the child. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. Funny, I replied, because I saw the paperwork in your office. You wrote the report yourself. Her smile froze, just for a second, and in that moment, I knew she hadn't expected me to find the files. You broke into HOA property, she hissed. You tapped my baby monitor, I shot back. Her jaw tightened, but she motioned to the men behind her. We will be entering the residence to check on the child. No, I said firmly. If you deny access, she said softly, we escalate it to emergency removal. I stared at her through the narrow opening of the door. She was so sure she had me cornered. So confident she could crush me under her fabricated authority. She didn't know I had spent the entire afternoon making sure she couldn't. You know what your problem is, Karen? I said. You think fear equals power. She blinked, thrown off. I held up my phone. Everything you forged, everything you recorded, everything you planned, my lawyer has it. And the county has it. And the news will have it if you don't walk away right now. The first crack of fear rippled across her face. But she recovered quickly, straightening her posture. You're bluffing. No, I said, unlocking the chain and opening the door fully. But you are. The two men behind her shifted uneasily. One whispered something in her ear, too quiet for me to hear. But I saw her reaction. Her eyes widened, her lips parted, her confidence shattered. They were backing away, not her, them. They realized this wasn't worth their involvement. Not with evidence, not with legal consequences, and definitely not with cameras recording everything. The bigger guard stepped back completely. This isn't worth it. We're done. The second followed. Cowards, she snapped at them. I pay you, and we're not going to jail, one replied before walking off. Karen stood alone now, trembling with fury, mascara smudging at the corners of her eyes. You think this is over? She hissed. I run this neighborhood. I run the board. You don't run anything anymore, I said calmly. Because I sent everything to the authorities hours ago. Her face drained of color. You what? Before I could respond, headlights flooded the street. Two sheriff vehicles pulled up silently, blocking her car from both sides. Karen spun around, shocked. The deputies stepped out. One approached her. Ma'am, are you Karen Whitaker? She stuttered. Why yes, but, you're under investigation for falsifying legal documents, unlawful surveillance, harassment, and endangering a minor. Her clipboard slipped from her hands and clattered onto the pavement. This is insane, she shrieked. He's the danger. He's unstable. Ma'am, the deputy said, we saw the files. We saw the recordings. That's enough. She turned back to me, eyes wild. You ruined everything, she screamed. This neighborhood needs order, needs discipline. You people don't understand. The deputies didn't let her finish. They guided her toward the vehicle as she thrashed and yelled, her perfectly curated power finally dissolving. I didn't celebrate. I didn't shout back. I just stood silently on the porch holding Emma, who had woken and peeked out at the lights with sleepy wonder. The deputy approached me. Sir, your lawyer sent us everything. You and your daughter are safe. I nodded, unable to speak. Because relief this deep doesn't come with words. It comes with the weight lifting off your chest. The weight you weren't even aware you'd been carrying. The next morning, a neighborhood meeting was held. Without Karen, the board collapsed instantly. Residents apologized, ashamed they had allowed her to operate unchecked for so long. The flyers were taken down. The fake reports were erased. The surveillance practices were shut down permanently. And the board resigned, one by one. The sheriff later informed me that Karen had done this to at least 3 other families, but none had managed to gather proof. None had fought back, but I did. For Emma, always for Emma. A week later, I stood on my front lawn holding her close, sunlight warming her tiny cheeks. She giggled at the sound of birds overhead, safe, happy, unaware of how close she came to losing everything. I kissed her forehead. No one, I whispered, will ever hurt you again. And for the first time since moving to Maplewood Estates, the neighborhood finally felt like home.